And welcome back to Shanghai, where Samsung Galaxy are taking on Team WE. And in Game 2 of the semi-final, Samsung have picked blue side. I don't think that'll be a big surprise to anybody that's been watching the playoffs. Has risen in popularity. Papa Smithy, what does Samsung have to do? Where do you think they turn their attention when it comes to pick and ban, and how and where they're going to change?
So on the blue side, you can set the tempo of the game. Game 1, they opted into the Lulu and Janna exchange bans. To me, Samsung Galaxy kind of an enigma, because in LCK, they liked the extended games. They liked opting into things that would slow down the pace of the game and allow them to play late game fights. They did not find success from that in the quarterfinals, though. The group stages were up and down playing that style. In the quarterfinals, they tried to attack Longzhu's early game. Now I'm really left wondering where they see their own strength as a team, because it was a new lease on life to me for Samsung Galaxy in the quarters. Now on blue side, they really do get to shape the draft, I would say, in the bans.
Yeah, and in the quarterfinals, Ambition had so much success on Sejuani.
Yep.
So I'm really curious to see if they opt into some of those jungle bans, or if they actually just prioritize Sejuani above all. They can still ban Galio, Janna on the blue side and orchestrate a first pick Sejuani and force that ban in from Team WE, and that's what I expect them to do. Ambition needs to have early game effectiveness, and Sejuani's been his best pick for that.
Well, it was unfortunate for Ambition. The game somewhat lost around him in the laning phase in the last few minutes. Of course, Team WE, they banned that Sejuani, Galio, and Lulu, as we've covered extensively. And as we jump into Game 2 picks and bans, straight out the gate, Lulu will expect the Kalista to follow on the side of Team WE, as has been 100% pick demand from groups and now playoffs. It's only got a few appearances during the play-in stage.
So the only reason to me that Samsung Galaxy ban Lulu, because CoreJJ I think is strongest on the likes of Lulu and the Enchanter supports, is they want to have force bans onto Team WE's side. If you see a Lulu blue side, you expect an answering Janna red side ban along with Kalista already, and then the chance of getting that Sejuani first pick rises for the side of Samsung. But I think WE is going to try to set up a trade where, sure, if Sejuani goes one way, Galio may be available for the side of Team WE. So I feel like the bans here, Samsung is setting the tone so far, but WE could try calling their bluff.
Yeah, and you really have to wonder what priority the Galio will have. Crown has played it. Very few people have gotten to play it. FLICKR got to play it 5 times, and xiye has also been dominant on the pick. So whenever you're leaving up stuff like Sejuani or Janna and Galio, you're leaving up a crew of champions, you wonder what the other team's going to get in return.
37 games played at the World Championships with a 70% win ratio. That's Galio, and still remains off the ban pool. Xiye joins Kog'Maw, Tristan, and Kalista.
It's a lot of AD carry bans.
Yep, it is.
Letting you know that they don't want to give over Xiye Rakan on the red side from a first pick Sejuani, or I guess now, maybe even a first pick Galio or Janna, because all 3 of those are available. Team WE, if they're confident enough to play into Janna, which has been dominant, especially recently, they can leave all 3 up and take the best 2. Now it's going to feel like more of a 1-for-1 trade.
This, to me, shows you how much Team WE respects Ambition's Sejuani. Yep. Because Ben, as we mentioned, has won 12 times on Janna this year, lost 0. And they could have orchestrated the world where they get Sejuani Galio, but you know what else they can get? Jarvan
The
Galio.
big 3, even throwing in a big AD carry pick in. Not the Kog'Maw, of course, so it can't be the full LPL special, but Jarvan and Galio are those mid-game teamfight gods.
But if they do lock this in, which they will,
yep,
their Team WE, this is their favorite combo, it does give over Janna Twitch. So we have the 2 best hyper carries in Kog'Maw and Twitch, and the 2 best hyper carry enablers in Janna and Lulu. 2 of those have been banned. So Samsung can get both of them and control that aspect of the game.
And that's why it's so fascinating, Jap, because I see 2 combos that Samsung will consider. They will consider the Janna Twitch or the Janna Caitlyn. Varus would be on the Caitlyn side, where it'd be about lane dominance. This would be Samsung saying, our strength is early to mid. Let's avoid Team WE as a late game team fighting team, which is so counterintuitive, because to me, that's Samsung as well.
Well, does that also signify what else is going to get locked in the draft? We'll find out shortly as the Varus joins Malzahar in phase 1. This Jarvan Galio, by the way, 7 wins, 2 losses when combined together here at Worlds.
And the Malzahar makes sense. We have seen it rising as a counter pick, so to speak, to the Galio because of late game scaling. RNG was using it as a counter pick in the first 2 games against SKT yesterday, and then abandoned it. So by no means is this a free win into Galio or an amazing counter pick. It's more of a thing that you're okay with doing. And because they picked Varus, Team WE get to have the Twitch.
Oh, now this makes phase 2 picks and bans so spicy. We heard the analyst there talking about Shen being let through. whether the assumption was CuVee's cannon was going to be fine into it, or whether they just didn't maybe factor it all together. That was one of the discussions from the previous game. This time around, however, it is a Kha'Zix and it is a Rakan to start things off. So pivots already. Cho'Gath was banned along with the Orianna. Champions that stand out in my mind, Papa Smithy.
And with confidence riding high, you wonder if WE just returns the Shenwell a second game in a row and has all the tools ready to keep Mystic alive. They basically set up their drafts around this player. A lot of respect being shown to Samsung. Samsung have the ability to once again draft for early to mid-game priority, but the game went away from that priority. It went against expectation with Condi smart jungling in game 1 and the bot lane falling apart. The reliability of Varus and Janna isn't the reliability of the Caitlyn duo, I would say, in terms of taking early turrets. So many questions, even though we're already into the second round of the draft.
Yeah, and the Taric is also one of the supports that they can't ban out if they do want to go for it. It does make them more of these team fighting behemoths that Team WE is building towards. And with the Kha'Zix ban, like, that is incredibly targeted when you're looking at the bans right here and you're like, okay, where's Gragas? Because that's absolutely something that Ambition can still take.
I mean, this is probably his best jungler historically this year, his most played as well over the course of spring and summer. The Gnar, which we saw be a big pick for Huni and was what CuVee brought back to the meta just before Rift Rivals. There's ultra comfort here in the second round for Samsung.
Let's see how this Gragas performance for Ambition will size up the competition, because if it is the most comfortable, the most successful, the 27 pick, and it falters in game 2, what could this mean for Samsung Galaxy? Team WE, final answer, and the hot pot composition.
You must complete the combo.
And it bridges the power gap so well as well. They have the Rumble here, so now even early to mid-game before 2 items, WE have a lot of potency. It is about as trademark as can be from Team WE, but Samsung have options. We saw yesterday the Gnar versus Rumble matchup go well for the Gnar, and although Gnar is pretty standard and Gnar coming back into the meta wasn't really about balance levels changing, the fact that CuVee goes very innovative with his builds. He's gone rapid fire and he's built BF swords on the Gnar in the top side. He is happy to really attack the split push pressure and then just be in there for the perfect Gnar ultimate as well.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see this game play out, because yes, Jarvan Galio is a lethal combo, but we've also seen a lot of teams have success with Gnar split push against a team that is trying to force 5v5 team fights. And Samsung has brought a lot of disengage. They have Janna and Gragas. They have also brought multiple pushing lanes that can be able to diminish the pressure and make it more difficult for Team WE to find these wombo combo fights. So I think it's a really high execution barrier on Samsung to prevent those team fights from coming across. But if a team's going to do it and a top laner is going to do it, it's going to be Samsung and CuVee.
Oh, all the disengage to try and counter all of the engage. Oh, these fights are going to be so spicy. You can see the team comps on your screens. Gentlemen, I just want to give you a quick update, because of course there is only one person on the planet with 100% perfect pick'ems. I want to remind you that he picked Team WE to win this series. So let's see whether or not Team WE can use this engage comp to get closer and keep the one true Profits predictions alive.
Get back to me with who he picked to win Worlds, because then we can just end the broadcast today. We don't have to worry about the bird's nest.
I'd rather not, because I'm quite looking forward to the bird's nest personally. But listen to Shanghai getting behind Team WE. We're standing in front of the crowd, and I tell you what, it is a wall of noise that hits you.
It's only getting louder, Trevor.
Team WE did talk about Worlds being in their home region was to their advantage, and they wanted to make use of it. Samsung, though, called it an insignificant advantage, and they're trying to work past it. It's all about honing in on the game at hand.
The 3rd seed from the LPL has come all the way from play-ins, and now in the semifinals. How far will their ride go? Mystic, it's already gone for a little ambush. There's no real juicy targets. They'll get a couple autos.
Got him.
And damage advantage. Get those DPM stats in your favor.
I like that WE once again have a level 1 plan. Samsung were very passive on level 1s throughout the majority of their games here at Worlds. So trying to find early aggressive wards to get information on pathing. Always something you can do at level 1, and Twitch can usually stealth in and get a ward down himself. They have 1 ward over on the red buff here, so at least have some advanced information, whereas Samsung, they're much more defensive and they have no advanced vision on the pathing from Condi.
Yeah, well, especially after what happened last game, I can understand the want for a defensive line. Samsung has this plan from before the game, from the draft phase. CuVee going to shove up topside. Ruler as well with the Varus, one of the strongest, probably the strongest super meta AD carry. If you don't consider Caitlyn high in the meta, Varus will win lane against the Twitch and the COG and all the other picks. So they're trying to push that in the top and the bottom side.
Kind of interesting to see the Varus go Relic Shield. It hasn't been as common recently for Varus in particular, who you think is going to put the hurt on in the laning phase. To me, it says basically that Samsung think the only way this lane can really turn is if the Ardent Sensor comes in faster for the Taric, and they have a disconnect like there was in game 1. So they're trying to at least, at worst I should say, equalize the Ardent Sensor races. See Ambition and Condi with a tete-a-tete.
CoreJJ is roaming.
There's a lot of support coming in. Condi now needs to get away. This is a 3-on-2 at best. Make that a 4-on-2. Condi gets over the wall. Will there be any barrels to follow it up? Mountain Drake actually helps Condi, pushing him out of the pit. And Condi lives to fight another day.
Holds on to his flash as well, which can be so important, that reposition on the flag and drag. Upside, CuVee. He's in Mega Gnar, but the trades are pretty good for the Gnar.
Yeah, and a super interesting invade by Condi right there. A lot of times you go buff to buff with the Jarvan, but he may have been expecting a little bit longer of a clear from Ambition, like a full clear blue side before going over to his red. The fact that he ran into him and then kind of opted into a bit of a trade was extremely dangerous.
And Ambition's pathing was really interesting to track. He played multiple games on the same side of the map as Sejuani in the Longzhu series and was starting Talisman one game, Machete another game, vary up his pathing whenever he was invaded on, specifically around Raptors. He always had a plan to defend his Raptors. In this case, got the face check out of Condi, but not the flash he really did prior.
Yeah, not enough pressure there to pick up the kill, but good reply from Samsung. Definitely roaming first. I mean, Crown, first one to leave that mid lane. He's going up against xiye's Galio, and you know, in the previous game, xiye had such a great casted performance. I'll get back to that in just a moment. Super easy first blood. Ambition just reads Condi like a book.
And Condi was super greedy right there. He got hit by the Scryer's Bloom. Ambition saw him at Wolves. Condi could expect an invade coming up, and then just didn't respect the flash from Ambition. That was, I mean, as easy as an amazingly strong scout from Ambition and great early game plan can be, the execution shouldn't have really happened. Condi should have accepted being pushed off of his buff, because now it's a double buff Gragas for Ambition, who can take his Raptors.
He's going to push in, invade the Raptors, try to continue to track the jungle. We'll see Condi actually spot him as well.
Ambition's flash is down. They're trying to pull something, but I don't even know if they can win the 2v2.
All right, the flag and drag gets a knock up into the taunt. The CC's been chained flawlessly.
He's out.
The Call of the Void comes up. Flash for flash over the wall. Ambition. Still 100 hit points to go through. Now Crown low on mana. He can't do anything more. Winds of War passes the double buff. xiye gets the damage down onto Crown. And I started that story talking about xiye, and it ended with xiye.
Wow, I am very surprised that they turned that one around, knowing Ambition was level 4 with double buffs against a level 3 Condi, but they pull it off, and that is absolutely enormous for the overall flow of this game. Ambition was about to run away with it.
It was a really long passage of play. Like you say, Scryer's Bloom hits, Condi could leave, Ambition made the read that he was going to be greedy, and that greed was punished. But what happened after this? That Galio pushed out a mid, backed and warded, saw Ambition come and use his body slam onto the Raptors, knew the flash was down, and that's when they pounced.
And I wanted to see Crown help this out faster. He was making sure to shove the wave in and didn't immediately start applying threat to Team WE. He got a lot of Voidlings down and nearly pushed them off, but xiye gets the cooldown up one more time. On top of it, they also get Crown fairly low and force another recall.
Oh man, xiye now. Double buffs in the mid lane. Talked about his casting performance really popping off in game 1 of this series, I believe is what the cool kids are saying. But his stats are a little bit like middle of the pack. This is a mid laner who does what the team requires of him, and is not necessarily the flashiest or the most statistically impressive.
I completely agree, Trevor. He has a lot of intangibles, as you would say, that aren't necessarily reflected in KDA. You'd say the same thing about Ambition in some of his plays as they qualified here for Worlds. But what I really take from him is he's a smart player. He knows his role. Usually it is wave clear and be able to assist for Mystic in particular. But we saw him solo killing Jensen on the Jace when he tried to be the fulcrum of the early game just a week ago. So he can morph himself, even if he's not a faker when it comes to being a household mid laner name.
Absolutely agree. And in the bottom lane, Ben landed a Taric stun onto Ruler to burn his barrier. So that lane that you were looking to Samsung to be dominant in isn't necessarily getting that type of advantage as of yet.
The only dominance here is a push advantage, and the moment xiye hits 6, and if they can get any control wards on the bot side of mid lane, even pushing becomes pretty risky for the side of Samsung. So the inevitability of the 2v2 being a pushing lane can be a blessing and a curse.
Well, the gold lead that Samsung have been able to pick up, thanks to that pushing and thanks to some small CS advantages, is almost all concentrated in Ambition, thanks to that kill. Plus 500 over Condi. Thankfully for Condi, he got that reply kill and, you know, helped xiye out in that laning phase. Giving him that early double buff and just keeping Team WE within touching distance, but they still are at a deficit. So let's see whether or not WE, how and where they can find those team fights, how and where they can find those engages. Because the onus is somewhat on them with this team composition to go forward, use the Taric and Jarvan in the Rumble, and obviously followed up with Galio.
Right, because one thing that Samsung has is they'll have that split push advantage with the Gnar later in the game, and they also can find ways to initiate fights, in part because of the Varus, but also the Malzahar and the Gragas. So a lot of tools that Samsung have given themselves to work with, that's one of the trademarks of them that can make them a bit more of a consistent team. So they aren't necessarily rushing this early game.
What I really like is the execution is what matters on the Samsung side. They've got the ability to disengage. They've got the ability to set up engage. There's a lot more diversification, but it all comes down to decision-making and implementation. Let's see who's going to get ahead. Condi looking for CuVee, who's got flash available.
Wordless at least.
Mega Gnar's coming very close, by the way. It's a sidestep down. Cataclysm's not even going to hold CuVee in place, so pretty easy persuasion.
Yeah, Condi was looking for the big play. He was trying to predict the leap or the flash from CuVee. CuVee didn't bite on the prediction, so he saved both of his summoner spells, and Condi just has to walk away.
He saved his leap as well, so advanced techniques there, holding onto the leap meant there was really no way that a flash could be forced out. Like what you guys were talking about, specifically on the engage on Samsung's side, all of that engage can be used for disengage from Ambition, Ruler, and CoreJJ especially. And from there, if CuVee can get big enough on this build, if he goes for a DPS build,
He just
can
showed
do a lot of
top.
work.
Galio's also not in range to ult as of yet. He's trying to make it there, but Crown is matching.
957's got teleport available. xiye trying to cover the distance, but it looks like Crown has already got sort of the positional advantage in the river. The threat of the dive mitigated as Ambition backs away, but it's not over yet.
It's usually very hard to break bot lane against a Galio team, so Samsung is playing this very slow. The dive is incredibly risky. That's when the Galio comes and turns it around, but if they get this early turret, it is huge for Samsung's ability to play the side lanes, and they're going to get it.
Well, Mystic and Ben, they're just going to back away. xiye and 957 either not in position or not comfortable enough to try and defend. A tower first blood goes to Samsung.
You don't normally see it with the Galio like you mentioned, but Malzahar specifically, we talked about the late game percentage damage. He actually has 2 ranged interrupts to the hero's entrance as well, just the regular silence on the Q and the suppression on the ultimate. Very hard to make the counter on. They don't have control over the bot side either, so had to respect the potential for collapse onto the Malzahar. And now the Twitch and Taric pushed in, and the Varus unlocked them.
957 starts to overheat, gets good flame spitter damage on the CuVee, only before eating all of those autos of the boomerang and the hyper. 957 comes away worse for wear. He's still 10 CS down. Somewhat expected in the matchup though. A little bit difficult in those early phases, and CuVee is definitely one of the superstars of Samsung, has been for quite a long time.
Yeah, but the thing to focus on in this graphic is the .17 KDA. They picked up 1 kill at the end, and I believe he was 6 deaths in that game as well. His laning has been impressive. He's able to get the advantage with these winning matchups, but it's about what they can do after that. And this game, all of the matchups are winning for Samsung.
And that's why I'm a big fan of the Gnar, and I was the same when we saw 2 games from Huni on the Gnar yesterday, is you do straddle the line from being lane dominant to having backup teamfight options, and even build innovation like we mentioned earlier. We're just going heavier on the AD and being a pure split push Gnar. You can do a lot of things. He does have lane control, but it doesn't come at the cost of a late game team fighting tank.
Well, the lane control has equated to 1,500 gold, and the item advantage, gentlemen. Ardent Sensor, Morella Nomicon, Ninja Tabak for Ruler, making his way towards that Rage Blade, of course, so item advantages here in favor of Samsung. If they want to look for any advantages, or they can just keep playing the map, play the towers. There's a Mountain Drake available as well. So a lot of objectives to play around without necessarily putting themselves in a position where the team fight power of WE's composition will make up for that lack of gold.
Yeah, and you also have to ask, how is Team WE going to get enough control of the map to force the team fights? That's really where this game is going to try and reach its breaking point. So Condi's going to have to get some type of side lane advantage, whether he can get Ruler's flash or CuVee's flash to start getting these advantages. Because as of yet, if he keeps making these empty ganks up to lanes, not getting any summoner spells, they're going to slowly lose this match.
Ambition once again showing his face down the bottom. Mystic was able to sneak his way out. That ambush, obviously not being spotted. And that means WE, now they're going to be defending the inner turret in the bottom lane. Where's the minimap? There's no movement yet. Condi's going to be here late. That's a lot of damage going down.
And you can see Crown is there to cut off Galio if he chooses to come. Already
so good by Samsung.
There's nothing that xiye can do.
No, there's not at all. However, 957 can join the fight. Teleport comes down. The flag and drag flash gets the knock-up onto Ruler, and the Cosmic Radiance will land. That's not going to be enough of a Monsoon. And CoreJJ, the first of the fight. That's a flash forward from Ruler. They've swapped sides. Ruler's now running for his life. The xiye with the Winds of War. The flash, the Durant taunt. That gets another. This fight's getting messy as the Dazzle sets up a stun for Ben to set up a kill.
Here.
Three-man body slam from Ambition. And now everybody turns their attention to the Crown. He's going to get dropped, taken down, and Team WE trade 4 for 2.
It was just like the teleport play that got them back into the series against C9 at 20 minutes. Earlier here, the Rumble comes in, the flag drag into flash from Condi to force the fight, equalizer to start it, and they decimate Samsung across the board.
And it was such a close fight. Even so, it's so difficult for Team W to actually get the fights that they want. But not only do they get the kills, they've also burned every single flash on Samsung, which means the next fight for them is easier to force.
We'll get a replay soon, but the start of it looked so good for Samsung when they were cutting off the Galio from joining. The Rumble, though, Minions one at his turret, he comes in, equalizer onto Ruler, and things look good for WE.
Yeah, and also having the Taric ultimate at the right time and focusing CoreJJ primarily. I do have to question a little bit the Galio ultimate target selection by xiye not going for Mystic's Twitch as he was getting focused at the back of the fight. But the chase at the end, very pivotal. Everyone getting so low with the Taric, but he has AoE abilities on all those heals and shields, and they fully commit onto Crown to make sure he can't get a kill.
Gnar may have been strong, may have been farmed, but he came in mini Gnar form. When the fight is started by WE, Samsung need a bit more setup time compared to Galio and Rumble, who can have instant impact. The instant impact was felt, and Samsung fell down.
And we talk so much in the group stages about the way Team WE focuses in team fights, and I thought for them it was more pronounced than anyone else. They focus support, then AD carry, and that's why Mystic had the largest damage per minute difference amongst him and other AD carries, because other AD carries were not finding success against Samsung. So watch specifically this game. If Team W can kill CoreJJ and put Equalizer on top of Ruler, they eliminate a lot of the damage threats on Samsung's side. It is very difficult to pull off, though, as Samsung has so many threats.
And of course, it also removes all that disengage power. That Monsoon didn't do a lot, just bought some time for JJ. We saw a setup for Ambition, waiting in the wings of that Tribush, and while Team WE are dealing with their blue buff, Condi's backing up the duo lane, and WE hold onto the top alpha turret is still an advantage for Samsung. Samsung is still continuing to push and pressure, but a great team fight win for WE. They've got the gold also into xiye's hands, so the man you want on the front line, keeping Mystic and 957 alive and distracting Samsung, is getting as tanky as you can.
And it's so delicate for Samsung to play this sort of play style. They try to poke onto turrets. They don't have Rage Blade yet, so they don't really have backup team fighting options, even with Ardent Sensor complete. But because summoners are down, they can't stay for extra minion waves to try to take down this top lane turret with the Jarvan lurking around topside. They have to back out. They do pick up their item, but there's always windows to punish when Varus has flash on cooldown.
Exactly, and there's still so much to play in this game. CuVee hasn't even popped his cull yet. And Team WE, I feel like, has already had to make one game-saving team fight. The fact that they were able to teleport in and get those kills kept them in it. But Samsung can continue to build on these advantages. CuVee's going to pop his cull. He's going to have a larger split push advantage. Ruler will be able to find some fights with Rage Blade, and his flash will be back up again. So Team WE still in a pretty difficult spot, but have made it this far.
All right, does Ruler and CoreJJ bite the bait? Condi, we don't know if he's recalled. There's the vision toggle. The engage comes down onto Ruler. Also gets the hero's entrance from xiye. But the Cosmic Radiance has already been thrown down by Ben. The attention gets focused onto Ruler. Nethergrass holds xiye in place. Call of the Void goes out as well as the Void Swarm. Those little crabs are looking for blood. Condi forced to run defensively. Samsung survived the engage. Body slam comes up from Ambition. Condi's knocked backwards. He's got no flash available, and Ruler gets his first of the game.
So they pick up a kill here, Trevor, but look mid lane as well. Gnar is pushing up the minion wave, so they're winning in 2 spots at the same time.
And they just didn't have the damage to kill him. There was the Janna who they didn't focus immediately, which is what they have excelled at before. That's why you have to kill the Janna first. The Monsoon, the shield, the barrier, keep Ruler alive, Crown roams up, and that's the pressure game that Samsung was waiting to be able to play.
Look at that gold spike, 3,000 and nearly taking the mid turret as well. They're also going to get Rift Herald, so that's just the charge alone should take down that mid outer turret.
That's why when you spoke before about a game-saving team fight at 12 minutes, it sounds weird to say. But with the draft that Samsung has, the inevitability of the checklist being hit, the ruler being rotated on the Varus and taking turret, it felt like the game was already getting away earlier. That's why W made their second proactive move. But like you say, instead of focusing CoreJJ, they use everything on ruler who has barrier up, heal was up, the turnaround starts, and in all of this, Gnar is already in the mid lane.
Exactly. Gnar's in the mid lane. The Rumble doesn't have teleport at the very start of that fight. Looks like he gets it by the very end of it. And then Ambition has a very well-aimed ultimate. Doesn't have flash before this. The full range knockback onto Condi after he'd already flagged and dragged away to get that kill.
During the course of the fight, Mystic was sitting around at 1,400 gold. Ruler had that Rage Blade, so disadvantage in items. Mystic has spent that since. Picked up the Runon's Hurricane. 957 got himself Leandries, but WE 3,000 gold down as we approach 20 minutes. Black Cleaver for CuVee. He's got that cult bonus gold. And WE might just be gifted this Mountain Drake. There's no one to contest.
So you see Samsung picking on to top side. WE taking down Drake's actually always something to narrow in on, because traditionally they are the lowest priority team when it comes to Drake. Famously, get Mystic 2 items, hit those gold marks. Even if you trade down a little bit, if you get your AD carry the gold early, which turrets and minions provide, then you're doing your job. So I think Samsung are very happy to opt into these sort of trades.
It's definitely out of character, because this is going to allow Samsung to get a turret trade for Mountain Drake, which will be deferred power. And Team WE, I feel like, need to find the Jarvan Galio fights sooner rather than later, although the Twitch in the very late game does have a late game win condition based on performance. It's just not what we're used to seeing at a Team WE, and you can see the pressure that they may have been able to defend against that they lose by going for that Mountain Drake.
Oh man, Samsung not even done yet. They're going for the inner mid turret. Team Wave is going to make its way out fairly soon. Use those crabs at least.
They're looking for a flank, but they're out of sync right now, and CuVee could still match with teleport, so just a lot of turret damage in mid lane by Samsung. Look at the gold lead now, 5,000.
Out of almost nowhere, but there was standing gold before. Thought the game was slowed down by one great TP play, but another one answers it. This is what Samsung picked for. It's very delicate to pull off a comp like this. Another turnaround fight, and maybe it's all over. Bit of damage onto xiye, but it's all about that inner mid lane tower.
Yeah, that definitely was the case. Chain of Corruption prevents any further follow-up. Tower falls 5-0 now in favor of Samsung Galaxy, and they've got absolute control of the top half of the map.
Yeah, and this is with Team WE pulling off that advantageous fight in the bottom side. The wave pressure has been relentless from Samsung. The way they have bounced back from the game one where they really lost control of everything. Ambition getting first blood helps enormously. Mystic will be able to pick up this one turret, but now Team WE is in full defense mode, and Baron is up.
On the one bright side, if WE can find Samsung in a choke point, Galio, Jarvan, Rumble can make up a large chunk of that. A large chunk of that 5K, but that is then dependent on getting through Janna and Gragas in the disadvantage.
And I love that point, because usually when it's 5,000 gold at 20 minutes, you're like, well, you can't fight, you're getting pushed around, you're in a really bad spot. There is no effective gold lead when you get a perfect equalizer layered into a spray and play. Everything goes exactly as mentioned by WE. They can still win a fight, but finding the right fight, actually being invited to a fight that Samsung also opts into, is pretty damn tricky to do.
And I really like the early redemption out of CoreJJ, because we've already seen how the damage is a little bit delayed when Team WE go in for this. So even if CoreJJ does die, he can still redemption the equalizer to help equalize the fight, so to speak, just getting everyone's health back up so they can win later with the deferred Malzahar damage throughout the duration of the fight.
So, Team WE, where are you going to find this miracle fight? How long can you defend before Samsung can just keep using this CuVee split push power getting tankier as well to complement that Black Cleaver. Just play on the side lane, and 957 is going to have such a difficult time. Going to be playing wave clear duty. Cannot afford to overextend either because CuVee just run him down.
While I'm quick to compliment Ambition, one area where his game may fall apart is those old man mechanics. The Baron smites are not normally that on point by Ambition, and Condi is known for his Baron steals. If you opt into the wrong fight, somehow Samsung are caught behind the Baron, and the AoE wombo comes down. The Baron is stolen. There is still a fight that WE wins around there, but it's really going to be more about control probably for Samsung than actually starting the objective.
Exactly. Look at the minion waves. That's the story of this game right now. As long as all of them are pushed into Team WE, Samsung is in control of this game.
I love that you mentioned the Baron stealing from Condi. Team WE find themselves in situations where they need to steal a Baron to stay in the game more often than maybe they would like. CuVee goes in for a full combo onto 957, and that's as expected because this should unlock the tower.
But you kind of have flashbacks of that Fnatic versus RNG game 2 where the Baron still brought RNG back in. Already we see on screen, 957 losing trades to CuVee. Starting the Baron is probably the only way Samsung can decide to lose. But
trying to go for it.
Condi's looking for the fight. Samsung is split up. This could be good. Rula gets a lot of shields and heals. The Radiance is interrupted by the Monsoon. But a beautiful equalizer. That's the first. The second. Now Mystic is looking for support, trying to chase down Ambition. Ambition's holding onto his flash in WE. The kills will buy some time.
Condi is so clever. Sneaking through and then being able to pull the trigger, and also how the initiation was desynced around CoreJJ, being able to find him after he's cast his Monsoon. But what happens after? They got 2 kills. Ruler and CoreJJ are almost back up. They haven't even gotten control of the Baron pit.
Getting objectives with one of these wombo comps needs more than just 2 kills when all the lanes are pushing against it. But this was picture perfect. There's a reason that WE are known for their team fighting prowess. There was some really small things here, apart from just the layering of CC, that worked well for WE. But like you say, Jat, we reset. They don't even really clear out wards around the Baron. They have to do this again and again.
Like, what is this fight worth in the end of the day? It's 900 gold and a flash on the Janna. They need to be able to find so much more. Watching this, though, Condi's sitting on that one control ward for a long period of time. The mid lane shows, so Crown feels very safe, but they pull the trigger, and it's just the Galio and the Jarvan at the start.
So watch Ruler. He still has flash and barrier up, doesn't use them. He's ready to flash over the wall, but the equalizer both gets the enemies and means that Ruler has no outlet to flash to. He will die if he flashes, dies with flash up, which I guess is small consolation, but everything perfectly synced for WE.
You can see that equalizer damage, gentlemen. 957 stealing the show. But as we mentioned, it is a delay. It buys WE time. That 5,000 gold lead, you've heard the narrative so many times. It means less the longer the game goes. And of course, when WE find those narrow choke points, when they find those places to fight, they can overcome some of those challenges. But it's still going to take another 10, 15 minutes before it's really equalized and evens out the footing here.
And Team WE want to find a fight while the Janna flashes down right now. So they have a brief window to get some control over the Baron area, but you can see the respect they're giving as well to the current power spikes of Samsung and Malzahar and Varus.
And Samsung haven't always been super disciplined with how they play with a 4-1 advantage. Last game of group stage, they had a fed Camille who could 1v1 Rumble. And it's
on to CoreJJ.
There we go. It's Condi as well as the backup. The taunt comes down, but they haven't got the kills. The healing is so good. Look at the suppression down into Mystic. He's going to get shut down. Cosmic Radiance keeps him alive. There's still not enough follow-up damage. Somehow, WE are unable to find anything. CuVee saves the day, and Ruler turns it around. That Cosmic Radiance was so close to being game-changing.
But CoreJJ played that as perfectly as a flashless Janna can. He waited out all the CC, and because Team WE wasn't coordinated enough to threaten beforehand, they got wrecked.
Watching for the turn here, though. The Baron steal potential is real.
CuVee's just going to kill Condi.
That would stop.
Well, Condi's running away with his life, cannot flag and drag into the pit, and the son of Baron will be unable to help out his team now. Whoop. One more house, not quite as exciting, and finally takes him down. CuVee, such a great turnaround, and 10,000 gold just shy of it in the lead for Samsung.
I mean, this was all about close but no cigar. WE go for their second big team fight. Feel like they need to make the initiation. The layering to start it was picture perfect.
They have him on top of the equalizer, but he gets off a full charge Monsoon and his level 11. And then the timing of Crown to Ultimate Mystic, the instant he opens up to prevent the damage from coming through onto them, allows the shields to change the entire time.
And a suppression effect means no auto attacks. It means nothing can be done by Ruler, who even lived longer, but with his low health bar was always going to die. The big objective goes to Samsung. Equalizer does insane damage, 4,200, even from behind for WE. They're now 9,000 gold behind because of all of it. Almost the perfect fight, but because those earlier objectives had gone to Samsung, there were more items, the Johns didn't instantly pop, and they could reset the fight.
Man, the level of team fights in that sort of corridor, in that sort of situation, is crazy, and Samsung still pull it off.
Both these teams are team fighting gods. Maybe Samsung struggled in groups, but they made most of their wins with 40-minute team fights for the majority of the past 2 years when their form started to turn in summer of 2016. So while the picks aren't as obviously late game scaling, they can make them work.
And with the Baron now a 9,000 gold lead, they just set up shop and dare Team WE to fight them again, because they have shown that you can try and do that Jarvan Galio combo, but you have to be so perfectly coordinated, otherwise Samsung will kill you. And then even if you kill Ruler, Crown and CuVee are enough diversified threat that they can get through. And
Samsung are making this Galio Jarvan combo look mortal, but they're trying again.
All right, let's take a look. There's the Monsoon to buy some time. Cosmic Radiance will land, and that will keep Condi alive a few seconds longer, but Ambition sticks around on the front line. Crown is bouncing the Malefic Visions from target to target, and CuVee gets himself a double kill from 0-6-1 in game 1 to 6-1-3. CuVee's Gnar has taken over this game, and Samsung are setting up on the Nexus.
Just another picture-perfect fight for Samsung in dealing with that combo. Everyone able to withstand the burst. They're going to win 28 minutes in.
They absolutely will. Condi and xiye running for their lives. The Nexus is focused down, and Samsung Galaxy even the series 1-1.
Not often do you see two back-to-back fights with perfect CC layering, and yet both of them are losses. But when you play the map as well as Samsung could in this game, equalizers and cataclysms be damned. The re-engage and the ability to disengage fights, the Janna in particular, when not focused down, like the first big team fight of the game, reset fight after fight, and Samsung won them all.
And even though this series is now at 1-1, with Team WE getting the Kassadin Shen split push and an even faster victory than 28 minutes, I feel like this win might mean a little bit more for Samsung, because Team WE took their best shot. They got Jarvan Galio and Twitch and Rumble and Taric. They got all of that teamfight wombo combo, even got teamfights, and still lost. So when they go back to the drawing board of what they can do next, they're going to be hesitant to pull out that combo again. And as the best of 5 goes on, and as the draft becomes more and more complex, that's something that doesn't change. They lost with this combo.
When we talked about Samsung Galaxy, after the Longzhu win, we said they kind of downloaded Longzhu. They knew their tendencies, they beat them with them. This was classic WE. We said it in the draft, and Samsung were ready for that. The 1-3-1 comp with the Cass and with the Shen, that was a big difference. They've played it before, but it's not the standard WE. Couldn't download that one. That's why it's so fun, because I feel like Game 3 will confirm the download or show that maybe WE has more tricks they just haven't had to show.
Galio plus Jarvan was 7-2 coming into the day. Now it is 7-3. Let's send it to Dash and the analysts. Their thoughts on how Samsung gave it the third loss.
Thank you very much. Quick shot. And wow, J4 Galio moves to 7-3. Janna moves to 41-15.
Even more OP.
15 before the game. But hey, both of these teams here come out with different looks in game 2. This time, Samsung get the better of WE.
Exactly. The most important part of the difference of this draft and the last draft, we talked about a lot of the power picks weren't traded. A lot of the questions weren't answered. This time around, both of them, were trading power in different areas, and it came so much more down to the in-game, execution. Janna is given over as the first pick, but then, as they said, you're able to get this combo for Team WE. Samsung, though, they still kept focus, and they were able to get the answer to the Galio with the Malzahar that we've seen over and over for this tournament, and critically, the super strong bottom lane for them. The Varus is a comfort pick for Ruler.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you're looking at this WE comp, and you're like, oh my god, that team fight is terrifying, but Samsung had ways to deny the team fight from them, at least until they're very far ahead. And they have a winning lanes bot. They have a pushing lane top even, with the Gnar who can get advantages there. And the Malzahar, this is a great answer to the Galio. So when you draft these winning lanes, when you're putting pressure on your opponents, it makes it so hard for them to actually be able to group up and find those team fights, because anytime you go for an opportunity, you're going to be losing turrets elsewhere. You're going to be taking damage on the other side of the map because the minions are already at your objectives.
Yeah, I just want to say that there were 6-1 in turrets before you really got to see the Wombo combo come through.
It's true. I just really like both drafts. Like, it's rare. I kind of go into it.
Deficio approved drafts. I like it. Then let's get into some fights, huh? Because we got a few to look at here. 12 minutes in, WE taking the initiative, 4 for 2 in the bot lane.
And they're in a really tough spot at this point. It kind of felt like Samsung was going to run away with the game. CuVee was doing great on top side. And obviously the very first replay here is Condi, who's deciding.
What do you give Condi out of 10 on this play, Kobe?
That's actually a 0, okay? Because he knew that Gragas had vision on him. The plant leaves the little spores around whenever
he was sparkles.
He knew it. He was sparkling, and then he also sees the Gragas come at him, start the body slam, and he had flash up, but he wants to.
And he baited me as well. I thought it was going to be a big flashy team fight, but it's just Condi.
So did I, but we're checking to make sure we have that replay. If we have it, then we'll pull it up.
But we can just Condi dying again.
But before we do it, let's set up then these two compositions and the way they want to interact, right? Because, again, looking at the J4, the Galio, the Rumble, there's a very specific way that Team WE wants to take a fight.
Yeah, so the entire idea is that Condi on the Jarvan is the one who engages into the back line of Samsung, and then you have a Galio ulti that follows, you have a Rumble ulti that comes down, and then all the focus is on that big circle in the middle where Galio flies in, while Twitch is kind of unnoticed and can then sneak in position to open up and hit 2 to 3 guys also in the back line. That's what's supposed to happen. But again, it's all relying on basically all 5 members have perfect synergy when they do this. And if one guy's out of position or not there, it kind of falls apart.
And it is what we saw at 12 minutes in the bot lane. Unfortunately, we don't have that fight, so I'm going to push us forward 4 minutes to the top lane, where WE, perhaps, kind of incentivized by that one bot lane fight, try the very same thing here in the top lane. This time, though, Samsung Galaxy have the response.
And Condi does go in here, and they try and take down Ruler right next to Janna. We got to see the knockback here, the disengage they're talking about. Critically, one of those key components Deficio is talking about, the extra damage from the Rumble ultimate, isn't here. So at this stage in the game, they don't have enough damage to push through.
And this was like a huge play for Samsung because they just lost that big fight before this year, and it looked like W were getting back in this game. But if you are Samsung as well, you're kind of hoping that your support gets to redemption as fast as possible. You hope there comes in some magic resist items where Wit's End was in there. Janna was also building towards a locket, and suddenly you start having some resistances against the Galio and the Rumble.
And honestly, in that top lane play, when you're going that all in under the turret, I was actually surprised that they didn't TP the Rumble in, because he had that available during the entire fight, even when they're starting to get chased back to their base, because you talked about how it has to be everything at the same time, and that is really what we didn't see come to fruition, especially when you are down on gold. Everyone needs to hit the same target, or Janna heals through it with the ultimate, with the redemption, with the shields. And if you don't kill someone in that initial burst, the rest of your team fight is pretty crap.
And we saw a couple of times, even when the Rumble is there, you have to account for the small displacement from the Galio ultimate as well, because a couple of times the key priority targets are right next to a Rumble ultimate and not actually burning.
And funnily enough, even though only 1 kill comes through in that engagement, we quickly saw 3 turrets go down in favor of Samsung Galaxy, along with a Rift Herald, so the gold really started flooding in. And to that end, we saw WE make one more stab at perhaps taking the game with a team fight. This one's going to come 25 minutes in. Samsung Galaxy to turn it 3-0. This one brought to you by Acer Predator.
And it is important to highlight how close these fights are, because here we get engaged with the Jarvan, the Rumble ulti, the Galio. Now, Kobe did mention that maybe they get pushed out of this Rumble ulti, or some of them. We even get the Twitch who sneaks in from the side. And this is like moments away from being a perfect fight for WE. But then there's no QSS on Mystic. He gets instantly ulted by Crown. And suddenly CuVee comes back as well and actually stops anyone from dying.
Yeah, you sneak up on a Malzahar, you're going to get Malzahar ulted as the AD carry that is isolated. And then you talked about, someone keeping their eye on this Twitch in the backline and having him be unseen. Well, CuVee just makes a beeline right for him.
For sure, and that's why it's so much about the timing, right? If that Twitch had been opening about 2 seconds earlier when the Galio's still on top of the Malzahar, that cannot happen. Maybe the Malzahar, if the Rumble ultimate's placed a little bit better, he's still cooking in that while he's CC'd up, the Twitch opens up. That is a fight that can lead to Baron and then it's very likely a WE game. That could put it back in their favor.
Exactly, and that's why I said I like both drafts, because I feel like WE, even despite losing this quickly, had some of those big fights where we're talking just a few seconds, like it goes off, and then bam, it goes the other way.
And I really liked what Samsung side lanes did in this game, because they, yes, in the draft they were able to set up, these possible winning scenarios here. Gnar, CuVee definitely deserves a lot of credit into the Rumble, because they actually had J4 visiting this matchup, and this can be a very Rumble-favored matchup, especially early with jungle pressure, yet he's able to scale up super well on this Gnar, and the bottom lane does get the snowballing going for the team.
And I thought his build was actually really intelligent to play around that, right? He knew that he could be vulnerable early, so he goes Cowl, then into the Black Cleaver, then fishes his Adaptive before he goes to the Frozen Mallet. So, building more to survive and sustain in that matchup, and then he was able to actually take over in the later team fights.
And this is why we looked at CuVee as one of the big shining lights on Samsung. It is a team where you don't talk about massive superstars who's making big flasher plays all the time, but if there's one man who will do it, it is CuVee.
And yesterday, right, we were looking at Huni, SKT, one of the few teams that definitely does look to play around their top laner. Samsung Galaxy at times has been known to do the same. Both of these teams finding success in this tournament, whereas others are still very much indexing towards that bottom lane. Real briefly, moving on to game through, WE back to blue side. What are we thinking here is the response? Because you say you're happy with both drafts, we can honestly just run it back, right, and just see who executes better this time around?
I think a little bit more early game focus towards the bottom side of the map, because in the pre-game for this entire series, we talked about, yes, in the past, WE have been able to kind of limp through the early game with a losing bottom lane and still, bring Mystic up to this level to carry the team fights. But this was too much. As I said, 6-1 in turrets is such a big gold deficit to try and come back from.
Yeah, I'd just love to see them have the pushing bottom lane, see what they can get done with the advantage, because that bot lane is such a strength for WE.
WE gave up too much early. Samsung Galaxy adapted in Game 2 to tie the series. We'll see what Team WE can break out in Game 3 after the break.
Still 100 hit points to go through. Now Crown low on mana. He can't do anything more. Winds of War passes the double buff. The flash, the Durant taunt. That gets another. This fight's getting messy as the Dazzle sets up a stun for Ben to set up a kill. Very mad body slam from Ambition. And now everybody turns their attention to the Crown. He's going to get dropped, taken down. And Team WE trade 4 for 2.
구독. 다 뛰었어. 주먹 나갔어.
바로. There's the Monsoon to buy some time. Cosmic Radiance will land, and that will keep Condi alive a few seconds longer, but Ambition sticks around on the front line. Crowd is bouncing the Malefic Visions from target to target, and CuVee gets himself a double kill. Samsung Galaxy even the series 1-1.
Predator takes you to the edge. You make the leap. Summon your strength.